Stella, stop it. Honestly, look at yourself. You're making everyone at this table uncomfortable. My mother, Marilyn, didn't whisper this. She didn't lean over and hiss it into my ear like a normal person trying to save face in a crowded restaurant. She said it at full volume in her own dining room while ladling gravy over a slice of roast beef that suddenly smelled like burning tires. I'm serious, she continued, the silver ladle clinking sharply against the china. Her good china, the stuff we weren't allowed to touch growing up unless the Pope or the governor was coming to dinner. We are trying to have a nice family meal. Let them enjoy their happiness. I looked across the table. Through eyes that felt swollen and hot, like I'd rubbed them with sandpaper, I watched Marcus, my fiancé, or I guess my ex-fiancé as of 2 weeks ago. The terminology gets murky when the man you're supposed to marry in June is currently rubbing his thumb over the knuckles of your younger sister's hand. Lydia was sitting there, glowing, actually glowing, and not in that I just used a high-end exfoliator way. She had that smug, untouchable aura of someone who has just won a game you didn't even know you were playing. She was using her free hand, the one not being caressed by the man who had promised to love me until death do us part, to delicately pick the almonds out of her green beans. I'm not trying to make people uncomfortable, I choked out. My voice sounded wet and broken, pathetic even to my own ears. I'm trying to understand why he's sitting here, in Dad's chair. He's sitting here because he's family, my father, David, said from the head of the table. He didn't look at me. He was busy meticulously cutting his meat into perfect 1-inch squares, a surgery he performed on his dinner whenever the emotional temperature in the room went above 70 degrees. And we're not going to ostracize family, Stella. We're better than that. He slept with Lydia, I said. It wasn't a scream. It was a flat, dull statement of fact. For 3 months, while we were picking out appetizers for the reception, he was sleeping with my sister. Technically, Marilyn interjected, wiping the corner of her mouth with a linen napkin that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. They fell in love. There is a distinction, Stella, and if you weren't so rigid, you might see that. So me. I gripped the edge of the table. The wood was polished to a mirror shine. I could see the distorted reflection of my own face, red, blotchy, unrecognizable. What does that mean? It means you're hysterical, Lydia said softly. She finally looked up from her green beans. Her eyes were wide and shimmering with that weaponized innocence she'd perfected by age 6. We didn't want to hurt you, Stell. We fought it. But you can't fight fate. And making a scene like this, it just proves that maybe Marcus and you weren't right emotionally. Marcus cleared his throat. He looked good. That was the most insulting part. He didn't look haggard or guilty. He looked like he'd just come from a spa weekend. Stella, look, he started, using that reasonable architect voice he used when explaining to clients why they couldn't put a hot tub on a historic balcony. Nobody is the bad guy here. Emotions are messy. We're just asking you to be an adult and support us, for the sake of the family. Support you, I repeated. I looked at my hands. I was shredding my napkin under the table, pulling the threads until my fingernails were wrapped in white debris. Yes, Marilyn said, taking a sip of her Pinot Grigio. Now stop crying, it's unsightly. Eat your beef before it gets cold. I looked at the beef. I looked at my mother, and I realized, with a clarity that felt like an ice bath, that they weren't waiting for me to heal. They were waiting for me to shut up. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. To understand why that dinner table felt like a hallucination, you have to understand the layout of the life I had built. And I mean built. I didn't stumble into my life. I engineered it. I'm Stella Barone. 3 weeks before the roast beef incident, I was the senior crisis manager for a top-tier PR firm in downtown Minneapolis. My job was literally to fix other people's disasters. When a CEO tweeted something offensive at 2 a.m., my phone rang. When a food brand accidentally poisoned a busload of nuns, I was the one writing the press release. I was the fixer, the reliable one, the one who kept the spreadsheets. I lived in the North Loop, in a loft apartment that I had curated with the precision of a museum exhibit. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, and a specific color palette of slate, cream, and navy. I remember sitting in that apartment 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday night. I was sitting in the chair. It was this deep navy velvet armchair I had stalked online for 6 months, waiting for a sale that never happened, until I finally saved up enough bonus money to buy it full price. It was my throne. I had the binder open on my lap, the wedding binder. Section 1, Venue, the Guthrie Theater's event space, industrial chic, very us. Section 2, Guest list, color-coded by relationship, bride's family, groom's family, work, college. Section 3, Vows. I was working on the vows. I had a glass of Merlot balancing on the coaster, slate naturally, and I was chewing on the end of a pen, staring at the blank page. Marcus, you are my structure. In a world of chaos, you are the straight line. I wrote that down and frowned. Too stiff? Maybe, but it was true. Marcus Holloway was an architect. He understood load-bearing walls. He understood that you couldn't build something beautiful without a solid foundation. We made sense. We were both professionals, both driven, both people who put our phones on Do Not Disturb after 10 p.m. because sleep hygiene is important. I looked at the timeline on the wall, a literal Gantt chart I'd printed out for the wedding prep. We were on schedule. Flowers were ordered. Calla lilies, simple, elegant. Caterer was booked. The deposit on the honeymoon to Japan was paid. My phone buzzed on the side table. It was a text from Lydia. Lydia, hey sis, just checking in on the flower sitch. Did you go with the white or the cream? I smiled. Lydia was flighty. She was 24, a yoga instructor, content creator, who lived in a chaotic studio apartment and borrowed money from mom and dad to pay for retreats in Sedona. But lately, she'd been so helpful, so interested. Me. Went with the white. Matches the linens better. Why? Lydia. No reason, just dreaming about the big day. You're so lucky, Stell. Marcus is a catch. I put the phone down, feeling a warm glow in my chest. Everything was falling into place. My career was peaking. My wedding was 4 months away, and even my flaky sister was stepping up. I looked around my perfect apartment. Not a throw pillow out of place, not a speck of dust on the baseboards. I thought I was safe here. I thought I had accounted for every variable. I didn't know that the structural integrity of my entire life was already compromised. There are always signs. You know that, right? When you look back, you see the cracks in the drywall that you painted over because you didn't want to deal with the foundation repair. The first glitch happened on a Thursday. Marcus and I had a shared calendar. It was essential. We synced our work trips, our gym schedules, our dinner dates. But that Thursday, I noticed a block of time grayed out on his schedule from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., simply labeled Site Visit West End. The West End project was a nightmare client, a guy who wanted to turn an old warehouse into luxury condos but kept running out of money. Marcus hated going there. Usually when he had a site visit, he'd come home complaining about the dust and the client's stupidity. He came home at 9:45 p.m. I was in the kitchen, meal prepping quinoa bowls for the week. He walked in and he smelled clean. Not like drywall dust, not like the stale air of a construction site. He smelled like soap, specifically a sandalwood soap that I didn't buy. Hey, I said, snapping the lid onto a Tupperware container, how was the pit of despair? He flinched. Just a micro flinch, barely visible, like a frame skipping in a video. He walked straight to the fridge and grabbed a sparkling water, keeping his back to me. Brutal. Guy wouldn't stop talking about heated floors. I'm exhausted. You smell nice for a construction site, I said. I wasn't accusing him. I was genuinely confused. He turned around and his smile was tight, a little too wide. I stopped at the gym on the way back. Quick shower. Didn't want to track dust into your sanctuary. He gestured to the living room. My sanctuary. Oh, okay. I went back to the quinoa. It made sense. Marcus was considerate like that. The second glitch was the phone. Marcus was not a tech-secretive guy. His passcode was 10123456. I know, terrible security, but he said he couldn't be bothered. His phone usually lived on the kitchen island, face up, buzzing with emails. 2 days after the gym incident, I reached for his phone to check the weather app because mine was charging in the bedroom. The screen lit up. Enter passcode. I punched in 123456. Incorrect passcode. I frowned. I tried it again. Incorrect passcode. Hey, Marcus, I called out toward the bathroom. Did you change your code? I'm trying to check the radar. The water in the sink shut off instantly. Marcus appeared in the doorway, a toothbrush hanging out of his mouth. He walked over, took the phone gently but firmly out of my hand, and slid it into his pocket. Yeah, he mumbled around the toothbrush. IT department at the firm made us update security protocols. Complex passwords required now. Pain in the ass. Oh, well, is it going to rain? Checked already. Clear skies, he said, and went back to the bathroom. He closed the door. He never closed the door when he brushed his teeth. Then there was the receipt. This is the one that should have woken me up. I was doing laundry because I'm the one who checks pockets, and I pulled a crumpled piece of thermal paper out of his jeans. Spy House Coffee, North Loop, Tuesday, 2:14 p.m. Order 1 Americano, black, 1 chai tea latte, oat milk. Marcus drinks Americanos. He hates chai. He calls it spiced dirt water. Lydia drinks chai tea lattes with oat milk. It's her entire personality. I stood there in the laundry room holding the receipt. My brain did that thing where it tries to protect you. Maybe he bought it for a client. Maybe he bought it for an intern. Maybe he met Lydia to discuss a surprise for me. Yes, that was it. Lydia was planning a surprise bridal shower. They were conspiring to make me happy. I threw the receipt in the trash and started the washer. I watched the water fill up the drum, drowning the evidence, congratulating myself on not being the kind of paranoid girlfriend who interrogates her fiancé over a latte. It was a Tuesday in late February. The weather in Minneapolis was that specific kind of midwinter hostility. Gray slush, gray sky, wind that hurts your face. I had crushed a presentation that morning, saved a tech startup from a PR nightmare involving a misogynistic tweet. My boss had high-fived me. I left the office at 4:30 p.m. feeling victorious. I decided to celebrate. I called that insanely expensive sushi place Marcus Loves, the one where you have to remortgage your house for a tuna roll, and ordered the omakase platter for 2. I didn't text him. I wanted to surprise him. I imagined us sitting on the floor by the coffee table, eating sashimi, laughing about his dumb clients, maybe drinking a bottle of sake. I pulled into the parking garage of our building. His car was there, a silver Audi. My heart did a little jump. Perfect. He's home early, too. I took the elevator up, humming. I balanced the massive bag of sushi in my laptop bag, fished my keys out, and unlocked the door. Honey, you will not believe the day I pushed the door open. The apartment was dim. The blinds were drawn, which was weird for 5 RPM. The only light was coming from the hallway. And there, on my navy velvet armchair, my throne, the one I saved 6 months for, were 2 people. They weren't just sitting. They were tangled. It took my brain a full 3 seconds to process the geometry of limbs. Marcus was on the bottom, shirt unbuttoned, head thrown back. Lydia was straddling him. She was wearing a lace camisole I recognized because I bought it for her birthday. They froze. It was like hitting pause on a movie. Lydia's head snapped toward the door. Her hair was a mess, a wild dark halo. Her eyes went wide, the whites showing all around the iris. Marcus looked up. His face was flushed. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then gravity remembered it existed. The sushi bag slipped from my numb fingers. It hit the floor with a wet, heavy thud. The expensive plastic containers shattered. I heard the crack. I saw the beautifully arranged sashimi sprawl out onto the hardwood floor. A crimson piece of tuna slid across the varnish and stopped against the leg of the velvet chair. "Stella!" Lydia's voice was a squeak. She scrambled off him, tripping over her own jeans, which were... God, they were around her ankles. She nearly fell face first into the spilled soy sauce. Marcus pushed himself up. He looked terrified, but also... annoyed? Was that annoyance? "Oh my God," I whispered. The air left my lungs. "My chair." "That's what I said. Not how could you? Not why." I said, "My chair." Because looking at them, looking at the smear of sweat on the velvet fabric, I knew the chair was ruined, just like everything else. "Stella, wait. Don't..." Marcus started, fumbling with his belt buckle. The metallic clink-clink of the buckle was deafening in the quiet apartment. I didn't move. I stood in the doorway, my coat still buttoned to my chin. The cold from outside was still radiating off me, but inside I felt like I was burning up. "How long?" I asked. My voice was unrecognizable. It wasn't the voice I used for clients. It wasn't the voice I used for friends. It was a machine voice. Dead. Flat. Lydia was pulling her shirt down, trying to cover herself, but she had put it on inside out. The tag was sticking up under her chin like a little white flag of surrender. She was crying already. Of course she was. Lydia could cry on command. It was her superpower. "Stell, please let us explain," Lydia sobbed, stepping toward me. Her bare feet squished near a piece of yellowtail sashimi. "We didn't mean for this to happen." "Don't take a step closer," I said. I didn't shout. I just projected. "How long?" Marcus sighed. He actually sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Stella, come on, can we not do the interrogation right now? Can we just sit down?" "Sit down?" I looked at the velvet chair. "Where? On the chair you were just fucking my sister in?" Marcus flinched. "3 months," he muttered. "What?" "3 months," Lydia wailed, dropping her head into her hands. "It started around Christmas. We connected, Stella. We realized we had this energy that you and Marcus just don't have." "Energy," I repeated. "You were sleeping together while I was booking the florist, while I was writing checks to the caterer." "We tried to stop," Lydia insisted, looking up with tear-streaked mascara. "But it's like magnets, Stell. We couldn't help it." "Get out," I said. "Stella, be reasonable," Marcus said, stepping forward, hands raised like he was calming a spooked horse. "I live here. My name is on the lease." "I don't care," I said. I walked to the kitchen island, the one where his phone used to sit, and grabbed his keys. I threw them at him. They hit him in the chest. "Get out, both of you." "Right now." "Where are we supposed to go?" Lydia sniffled. "It's freezing outside." "Go to hell," I said. "Or go to a hotel. I really don't care. But if you aren't on the other side of that door in 2 minutes, I'm calling the police and telling them there are intruders." "You wouldn't," Marcus said, narrowing his eyes. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. My hand was shaking so hard the screen was blurring. I held up my thumb over the 9. "Try me," I whispered. "Test me, Marcus. See what happens." He looked at my face. He must have seen something there, something broken and dangerous, because he grabbed his coat. "Fine," he spat. "Fine, you're crazy. You know that? You're acting crazy." He grabbed Lydia's arm. She was still trying to fix her inside-out shirt. He dragged her toward the door. As they passed me, Lydia reached out, like she was going to touch my arm. "Stell?" I recoiled so hard I hit my shoulder against the doorframe. "Don't! Speak!" The door slammed. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing against my eardrums. I looked down at the floor. $200 worth of sushi, a ruined velvet chair, and a wedding binder on the coffee table that was now just a book of lies. I stood there for 20 minutes, maybe 30. I watched the soy sauce packet that had exploded seep into the area rug. It was a slow, dark stain, spreading like a disease. Finally, my legs gave out. I sank to the floor, not on the rug, on the cold hardwood near the entryway, and pulled my phone out. I needed my mom. Even though Marilyn was difficult, even though she was critical, she was my mother. There are rules, right? If your fiancé sleeps with your sister, your mother leads the charge into battle. She burns the villages. She salts the earth. I dialed her number. Hello? She sounded distracted. I could hear the TV in the background, Wheel of Fortune. Mom, I gasped. The tears I had been holding back finally broke the dam. Mom, you have to... I came home and... Stella? Slow down, you're hyperventilating, breathe. What is it? It's Marcus, I sobbed, and Lydia. I walked in on them. Mom, they were sleeping together in my apartment. Silence. Total silence on the other end. I waited for the gasp. I waited for the, I'm coming over right now with a tire iron. Are you sure? Marilyn asked. The question hit me like a slap. Am I sure? Mom, I saw them. I saw everything. They admitted it. They've been doing it for 3 months. Oh, she said. Her tone wasn't angry. It was weary, resigned. Well, that is unfortunate. Unfortunate, I screamed. Mom, it's incestuous. It's biblical. My sister and my fiancé. Lower your voice, Stella, she snapped. Your father is trying to watch his show. Look, these things happen. My brain short-circuited. Excuse me? Passion is a tricky thing, she said, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. Lydia has always been very feeling-oriented. And Marcus is a man. Men have needs. Maybe he wasn't getting what he needed from you. You can be very cold, Stella, very controlling. I stared at the phone. I felt like I was falling down a well. Are you blaming me? I'm not blaming anyone, she said breezily. I'm saying there are 2 sides to every story. Lydia called me, by the way, while you were screaming at her. She's very upset. She's crying. She's upset? I laughed. A hysterical, jagged sound. She wrecked my life. She's your sister, Marilyn said firmly, and she loves him. Apparently they are in love. So we need to figure out how to navigate this as a family without all this drama. Can you just take a bath? Calm down? We'll talk when you aren't so hysterical. I am not hysterical, I yelled, but she had already hung up. I looked at the phone. The call had lasted 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, my mother had rewritten reality. The victims were the cheaters. The villain was the woman who came home early with sushi. I didn't take a bath. I paced. I paced the length of my loft, kitchen to window, window to kitchen, until my feet hurt. I called my dad, David Barone, the man who taught me how to change a tire and balance a checkbook. Hey, kiddo, he answered. He sounded tired. Mom told me. Dad, I said, my voice shaking, tell me you think this is insane. Tell me you're going to kick Marcus's ass. He sighed. A long, heavy exhale that sounded like air escaping a tire. Stella, look, it's a mess, I know, but screaming at your mother isn't helping. I'm not screaming at Mom. I'm looking for support. Dad, Lydia slept with Marcus. I know, it's not ideal, but Lydia is fragile, Stella. You know how she is. If we push her too hard, she spirals. We have to be careful. Fragile? I gripped the phone so hard the screen cracked. A spiderweb fracture appeared in the top right corner. She's not fragile, Dad. She's a homewrecker, and Marcus is a liar. Don't use that language, he warned. Marcus is, well, he's been like a son to me. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. We can't just throw people away. He was supposed to marry me in June, And maybe he still will, or maybe, look, just let the dust settle. Don't cause more drama than necessary. We'll figure it out. Drama. There was that word again. My pain was drama. Their betrayal was just a mistake. I hung up on him. I sat on the floor, surrounded by the smell of raw fish and soy sauce. My phone buzzed. A text from Nolan, my older brother. Nolan. Heard the news. That sucks. Sorry. That was it. That sucks. Like I had a flat tire. Like I had failed a math test. Not I'm coming over. Not, do you need a place to stay? I realized then, sitting in the darkening apartment, that I was completely alone. I had a family of 5 people, and I had exactly 0 allies. They had formed a phalanx around Lydia, the golden child, the fragile one, and I was on the outside, banging on the shield wall. I curled up on the hardwood floor, pulling my coat tight around me. I couldn't go to the bedroom. That was our bed. I couldn't sit on the chair. That was their crime scene. So I slept on the floor by the door, guarding the wreckage of my life. 2 weeks passed. I lived in a fugue state. I went to work because if I stopped working, I would have to think. I managed a PR crisis for a cereal company that had metal shavings in their bran flakes. I spun the story. I wrote the apologies. It was easy. Fixing other people's problems is easy when your own life is a dumpster fire. I slept on an air mattress in the living room. I put the velvet chair on the curb with a sign that said, "Free, bad juju." It was gone in an hour. I didn't hear from Marcus. I blocked his number after he sent a text asking when he could pick up his golf clubs. I had already donated them to Goodwill. I didn't hear from Lydia. Then, on a Wednesday, the summons came. Marilyn called me at work. "Stella," she said, "no hello. Sunday dinner, 6:00 p.m. Do not be late." "I'm not coming," I said, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear while typing an email. "I'm not doing Sunday dinners anymore, Mom." "You are coming," she commanded. "This has gone on long enough. The silence is childish. We are a family and we are going to sit down and resolve this. Marcus will be there. Lydia will be there. And you will be there." "They're going to be there?" I stopped typing. "Are you joking?" "They want to apologize," she said. "They want to make things right. And frankly, Stella, you owe them the courtesy of listening. You can't just cancel your sister." "I didn't cancel her. She slept with my fiancé." 6 p.m., Marilyn said. "If you don't show up, don't bother coming for Christmas or Easter. I mean it, Stella. Stop punishing us." She hung up. I stared at the phone. Stop punishing us. Part of me wanted to burn the phone, but another part of me, the part that had spent 26 years trying to be the good daughter, the perfect daughter, thought, maybe they really were sorry. Maybe Mom had finally snapped out of it. Maybe Dad would stand up for me. Maybe this was the moment they would choose me. I decided to go. It was the stupidest decision of my life. I pulled up to my parents' house in Edina at 5:58 p.m. It's a big house, brick, colonial, manicured lawn. It looks like the house in a movie where the dog dies but the family learns a valuable lesson. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I checked my reflection in the visor mirror. I looked sharp. I wore my armor, a tailored black blazer, red lipstick, hair pulled back tight. I wasn't going in there as the crying victim. I was going in as the crisis manager. I walked up the path. The door was unlocked. It always was on Sundays. I pushed it open and the smell hit me. Roast beef, rosemary, red wine, the smell of my childhood Sundays. I walked into the dining room and froze. It wasn't a mediation. It was a party. The table was set with the wedding china, the stuff with the gold rim. There were fresh flowers in the center. Candles were lit. And there was Marcus. He was standing at the sideboard opening a bottle of Cabernet with the fancy electric opener Dad got for Christmas. He looked at home. He was wearing a sweater I had bought him. Lydia was sitting at the table arranging napkins. When she saw me, she smiled. A tentative, hopeful, sickening smile. "Hi, Stell," she said softly. Mom swept in from the kitchen with a platter of roasted potatoes. "Oh, good, you're on time. Marcus, pour Stella a glass. She looks like she needs it." "I don't want wine," I said, standing in the archway. I clutched my purse like a shield. "I want to know what this is." "You said we were going to talk." "We are," Dad said, emerging from the hallway. He clapped a hand on Marcus's shoulder, a friendly, fatherly clap. "But let's eat first. No heavy conversations on an empty stomach." Marcus poured the wine anyway. He held the glass out to me. "Stella," he said, his voice dripping with that fake architectural calm. "Just sit down. Please." I looked at the glass. I looked at his hand. I looked at the ring finger where he used to wear the silicone band I got him for the gym. It was gone. I didn't take the glass. I walked to my seat, the one I've sat in since I was 5, and sat down. Marcus sat in the seat next to me. His seat. Lydia sat across from him. They exchanged a look, a quick, intimate glance that communicated a whole conversation. I felt like I was in a horror movie where everyone has been replaced by pod people. "Shall we say grace?" Mom asked. We bowed our heads. "Lord," Mom prayed, "thank you for this food. And thank you for bringing our family back together. Help us to forgive, to forget, and to embrace the new blessings you have sent us. Amen." New blessings? My stomach churned. I opened my eyes and saw Lydia biting her lip, looking down at her lap. We made it through the salad course in excruciating silence. The only sounds were forks scraping china and Dad chewing. Then the roast beef happened, the stop crying moment. And after Mom told me to shut up, after she told me to let them enjoy their happiness, the air in the room changed. Marilyn set down her fork. She looked at Lydia. She nodded. Lydia took a deep breath. She reached across the table and took Marcus's hand again. "So," Lydia said, her voice trembling with excitement, "we have some news, and we wanted to tell you all together because, well, it's a miracle, really." I stopped breathing. "We're pregnant," Lydia squealed. The words hung in the air over the centerpiece. "We're pregnant." Dad beamed. "Well, there it is! A grandbaby! Finally!" Mom clasped her hands together. "Oh, Lydia, it's wonderful! A baby." I did the math. My brain is really good at math. "How far along?" I asked. My voice was ice. Lydia hesitated. 8 weeks. Almost 9. 8 weeks. 2 months. I looked at Marcus. 2 months? He looked away. "Stella, it just happened." 2 months ago, I said, looking at my mother. "I was fitting my wedding dress. 2 months ago, Marcus and I were at the cake tasting. And you," I pointed at Lydia, "you were pregnant with his child." "It's a blessing," Mom interrupted, slamming her hand on the table. "Stop trying to ruin this, Stella. A baby is a blessing. It's God's will." "God's will?" I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You think God wanted my fiancé to knock up my sister while we were engaged?" "Sit down," Dad barked. "Show some respect." "No," I said. I looked at them. Really looked at them. I saw Dad, the coward who would accept anything to avoid conflict. I saw Mom, the narcissist who only cared that she was finally getting a grandchild to show off on Facebook. I saw Lydia, the thief who thought tears were a currency. I saw Marcus, the traitor. I reached into my purse. I pulled out the ring box. I had been carrying it around for 2 weeks, unsure what to do with it. I opened it. The diamond caught the chandelier light. It was beautiful. It was expensive. I tossed it onto the table. It landed in the mashed potatoes. "There," I said. "You'll need that to pay for the diapers. Architects don't make that much, do they, Marcus?" "Stella, stop it," Lydia cried. "You're being cruel." "I'm being cruel." I laughed. I felt light, weightless. "I'm the only one in this room who is sane. You people, you're monsters. You deserve each other." I turned to my mother. "You want a family? You have one. You have the liar, the cheat, and the coward. But you don't have me. If you walk out that door, Marilyn threatened, standing up, her finger pointed at me like a weapon. You are done, Stella. I mean it. You are cutting yourself off from this family. I looked at the door. Then I looked back at her. That's the best offer you've made me all night. I turned around. I'm not a Barone anymore, I said over my shoulder. Change the locks. I'm dead to you. I walked out. I heard Mom screaming my name. I heard Lydia sobbing. I heard Dad shouting about being reasonable. I walked to my car. The cold air hit my face, drying the tears instantly. I got in. I started the engine. And for the first time in 3 months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was lighting a match. The Hennepin County Government Center doesn't look like a place where you go to be reborn. It looks like a place where you go to pay parking tickets or get divorced. It smells like floor wax and stale Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I was standing in front of Judge Holloway, no relation to Marcus, thank God, on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't wearing my crisis management armor today. I was wearing a soft beige sweater and jeans. I felt raw. You're petitioning to change your name from Stella Barone to Stella Crawford, the judge said, looking over her glasses. She was a woman in her 60s with a face that had seen every variety of human stupidity. Is this change to avoid debt collectors or criminal prosecution? No, Your Honor, I said. My voice didn't shake. I was surprised by that. Is it related to a marriage or divorce? It's a divorce, I said, gripping the wooden railing in front of me, but not a marital one. I'm divorcing my family. The stenographer paused. The bailiff looked up from his phone. The judge put her pen down. I see. And Crawford? My grandmother's maiden name, I explained. Evelyn Crawford. She was the only person in my bloodline who knew that no was a complete sentence. She walked out on her abusive husband in 1968 with $40 and a sewing machine. I want to be a Crawford. The judge studied me for a long moment. It felt like she was x-raying my soul, looking for the cracks in the foundation. Then, the corner of her mouth ticked up. Just a millimeter. It's a strong name, she said. She stamped the paper. Thwack. That sound, that dull, heavy thud of ink on paper. It was better than any symphony I'd ever heard. It was the sound of a guillotine blade coming down on Stella Barone. Petition granted, she said. Good luck, Ms. Crawford. I walked out of the courtroom holding the certified copy of the order like it was a winning lottery ticket. I went straight to the Department of Motor Vehicles. I waited in line for 3 hours. I didn't check my phone once. When they handed me the temporary paper license with Stella Crawford printed on it, I went to the bathroom and cried for exactly 60 seconds. Then I washed my face, reapplied my mascara, and went to kill my old life. Catherine, my boss, was terrifying. She was the kind of PR executive who could make a grown man cry just by raising an eyebrow. Her office was all glass and chrome, overlooking the Mississippi River. I walked in without an appointment. I need to talk to you about the Seattle expansion, I said. Catherine didn't look up from her laptop. The position is still open. We haven't found anyone sadistic enough to handle the tech sector out there. Why? I want it, I said. And I want the relocation package, the full one. Moving company, lease break assistance, the signing bonus. Catherine finally looked up. She took off her reading glasses. You're a Midwest girl, Stella. You have roots here. You have a fiancé. You have that wedding binder you organize on your lunch breaks. The wedding is off, I said. The fiancé is sleeping with my sister. My family is hosting the baby shower. I need to be in a time zone where none of them exist. Catherine stared at me. The silence stretched out. I could hear the hum of the server room down the hall. Then she smiled. It was a shark smile. Scorched earth, she said appreciatively. I like it. You'll be perfect for the Seattle office. They're dealing with a class action lawsuit for a dating app that accidentally leaked user chats. It's a bloodbath. I love a bloodbath, I said. Can you be there in a month? I can be there in 3 weeks, I countered. but I need the signing bonus to clear this Friday. I need to pay off a caterer for a wedding that isn't happening. Catherine tapped her keyboard. Done. You start April 1st. Don't disappoint me, Crawford. She used my new name. She hadn't even seen the paperwork. I won't, I said. I walked out of her office feeling a rush of adrenaline that replaced the hollow ache in my chest. I had a mission. I had a deadline. And for the first time in weeks, I had a future that didn't involve Sunday dinner. Dismantling a life is surprisingly labor-intensive. I had 3 weeks to erase Stella Barone from the North Loop. I started with the furniture. I couldn't look at it. Every piece was contaminated. The dining table where we ate breakfast? Gone. Sold to a college student for $50. The bed? I paid a junk hauler to take it. I didn't want anyone else sleeping on the mattress where Marcus had lied to me about his work stress. Then came the clothes. I went through my closet with trash bags. Anything Marcus had ever complimented went into the donate bag. That red dress he liked? Gone. The silk blouse I wore on our anniversary? Gone. But the wedding dress was the final boss. It was hanging in the back of the closet in a white garment bag that looked like a body bag. It was a custom A-line, silk chiffon, with a neckline that made me look like a princess. It cost $3,500. I unzipped the bag. I stared at the lace. I remembered the day I bought it. Lydia had been there. She had cried. You look so beautiful, Stell. He's going to die when he sees you. She was probably sleeping with him that same week. I zipped it back up. I didn't burn it. That's dramatic and bad for the environment. I drove it to a consignment shop in Uptown called Second Chances. It's never been worn, I told the clerk, a girl with pink hair and a nose ring, brand new, altered for a size 6. Did he die? She asked, checking the seams. No, I said, but he's dead to me. Fair enough, she said. We can list it for $200. You get 40%. Keep the money, I said. Donate it to a women's shelter or buy yourself a really nice bottle of tequila. I don't care, just get it out of my sight. I walked out of the shop empty-handed. My phone buzzed. It was a Venmo notification. Lydia Barone sent you $50. Note, for the microwave you let me take. Miss you, sis. Please call Mom. I declined the payment. Then I blocked her on Venmo. It felt petty. It felt amazing. April 1st, 5 a.m. My car was packed to the roof. My entire life, the parts I chose to keep, fit into a Honda CR-V, 2 suitcases of clothes, a box of books, my laptop, and a framed photo of Grandma Evelyn. The apartment was empty. I did one last walkthrough. The spot on the floor where the sushi had fallen was still faintly stained, a ghost of the soy sauce disaster. I left my keys on the counter. I got in the car. The city was still asleep. The sky was that bruised purple color before dawn. I drove onto I-94 West. As I passed the exit for Adina, my parents' exit, my phone started blowing up. It was Sunday. They were waking up. They were realizing I wasn't coming to Easter brunch. Mom, 3 missed calls. Dad, voicemail. Lydia, Stella, please don't do this. It's Easter. I didn't listen to the voicemail. I pulled over at a rest stop in darkest North Dakota 6 hours later. The wind was howling across the plains. I sat in the car and opened my contacts. Marilyn Barone, edit, delete contact. David Barone, edit, delete contact. Lydia Barone, edit, delete contact. Marcus Holloway, edit, delete contact. It was surgical. Digital amputation. I confirmed the deletion of the group chat, Barone Fam Jam. I stared at the empty screen. I was an orphan now, a self-made orphan. I put the car in drive and merged back onto the highway. The road ahead was flat and gray and endless. I turned the radio up. I didn't look in the rearview mirror, not once. Seattle isn't like Minneapolis. Minneapolis is cold and sharp. Seattle is wet and heavy. The air feels like you're wearing a damp wool sweater. I loved it immediately. I found an apartment in Capitol Hill. It was the size of a shoebox and cost twice as much as my loft. The view was a brick wall and a fire escape. It was perfect. The first night, I didn't have a bed. My air mattress had a slow leak, so by 3 a.m. I was basically sleeping on the floor. It was raining, a relentless rhythmic drumming against the window pane. I ordered pizza, a local place that put artisanal honey on their pepperoni. I sat on the hardwood floor, different wood, darker, scratched up by previous tenants, and opened the box. I remembered the sushi. I remembered the way the plastic cracked. But this time, nobody was screaming. Nobody was naked on my furniture. It was just me. I took a bite of the pizza. It was hot and sweet and greasy. "Happy housewarming, Crawford," I whispered to the empty room. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from LinkedIn. "Congratulations on your new role at Stratus PR Seattle." I clicked like on my own life update. Then I curled up on the deflated mattress and slept for 12 hours. I didn't dream about the roast beef. I dreamed about the ocean. 3 months in, I was settling in. I knew which coffee shop had the best oat milk. I knew which route to take to avoid the hills. Then, Nolan called. My brother. The neutral one. The Switzerland of the Barone family. I hadn't blocked him. I don't know why. Maybe I needed one lifeline just in case someone actually died. "Stella," he said. He sounded out of breath. "Thank God you picked up." "I have 5 minutes, Nolan," I said, putting my headset on mute. I was in the middle of a crisis call with a CEO who had accidentally live-streamed his therapy session. "What is it?" "It's about Grandma Evelyn's trust," he said. "The lawyer called Dad. Apparently there's a clause, a distribution clause, but all the beneficiaries have to sign off in person, in Minneapolis." My stomach dropped. "What? That trust was settled years ago." "I know, but they found an account, a bond account. It's significant, Stella, like 50 grand each, but if you don't sign by the 15th, it goes to the state. $50,000. That would cover my relocation debt. It would be a down payment on a condo. "Send me the paperwork," I said. "I'll sign it here and notarize it." "Can't," Nolan said quickly. Too quickly. "It has to be in the presence of the trustee. Look, Mom and Dad are willing to be civil. Just fly in, sign the papers, grab the check, and leave. You don't even have to stay for dinner." I paused. Something was off. Nolan wasn't a good liar. His voice had that high pitch it got when he was trying to sell me on a family vacation I didn't want to take. "Who's the lawyer?" I asked. "What?" "The lawyer, Nolan." "What's the firm?" Henderson and Associates, I think." "You think? You're talking about 50 grand and you think you know the firm?" I pulled up Grandma's old files on my laptop. I had scanned everything before I left. "Grandma used Miller and Davis," I said. "She hated the Hendersons." "Well, maybe they switched." "Look, Stella, just come home. She's really not doing well. She cries every day. She just wants to see you." Silence. There was no money. There was no bond account. It was a trap, a bait and switch to get me back in the dining room so they could ambush me with an apology tour. "Tell Mom to save her tears for the christening," I said coldly. "And Nolan, if you ever try to trick me into a reunion again, you go on the block list with the rest of them." "Stella, wait." I hung up. I stared at the phone. My heart was hammering, not out of fear, but out of rage. They thought I was stupid. They thought they could dangle money and I would come running back to the slaughterhouse. I blocked Nolan. Switzerland was now enemy territory. I channeled that rage into my work. The dating app lawsuit was messy. The CEO was a frat boy in a hoodie who thought "sorry you got hacked" was a sufficient apology. I rewrote the narrative. I put the female lead developer in front of the cameras. I wrote her speeches. We pivoted the conversation from negligence to industry-wide security reform. I worked 16-hour days. I lived on caffeine and adrenaline. There was a moment 6 months in where we turned the tide. A major tech blog ran a headline, "How Cupid App Learned to Grow Up." My boss, Catherine, who had flown in to check on me, threw a copy of the magazine on my desk. "You're terrifying," she said. It was the highest compliment she could give. "Corporate wants you to handle the keynote at the Tech Verify conference in San Francisco next month." "I'm not a speaker," I said, not looking up from my monitor. "You are now," she said. "You're the face of the cleanup, Crawford. Own it." I went home that night and looked in the mirror. The Stella Barone who cried over linen napkins was gone. Stella Crawford had dark circles under her eyes, but she had a bank account that was growing and a reputation that scared people. I liked her. She was harder. She was colder. But she was safe. The conference was in a hotel ballroom that smelled like ozone and desperate networking. I gave my speech. It was titled, "Apologies or Action. Why I'm Sorry Isn't a Strategy." I crushed it. I didn't stutter. I didn't apologize. I eviscerated the standard corporate non-apology. Afterward, I was hiding in the hotel bar, nursing a sparkling water and trying to avoid a guy who wanted to pitch me his blockchain startup. "You know," a voice said from the stool next to me, "I think you actually scared the guy from Google. I saw him taking notes." I turned. He was normal. That was the first thing I noticed. He wasn't wearing a tech bro hoodie. He wasn't wearing an intense architect suit. He was wearing a rumpled button-down and he had ink stains on his fingers. He had kind eyes. Not nice guy kind, which usually means pushover. Actually kind. "I'm Caleb," he said. "I'm a ghostwriter. I write the books that the CEOs pretend they wrote." "I'm Stella," I said. "I clean up the messes after they go off script." "Ah," he smiled. "The cleaner. I liked your speech, especially the part about how forgiveness is earned, not owed. Sounds personal." I stiffened. "It's professional." "Right," he said, holding up his hands. "Professional. Sorry. Can I buy the cleaner a drink, or do you have to go put out a fire?" "I'm off the clock," I said. We talked for 3 hours. We didn't talk about my family. I didn't tell him about the roast beef or the velvet chair. We talked about books. We talked about how much we hated the word synergy. We talked about the best hiking trails in the Pacific Northwest. He was from Oregon. He didn't check his phone once. He didn't look over my shoulder to see if there was someone more important in the room. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him. And when he texted me the next day, I didn't feel that familiar knot of anxiety. I felt curious. 18 months later, I was living in a bigger apartment now, one with a view of the Sound. Caleb was making coffee in the kitchen. We weren't living together. I still had boundaries like electric fences, but he stayed over on weekends. I opened my laptop to check my email. There was a message in my spam folder. Sender, David Barone. Subject, please read, update. My finger hovered over the delete key. I had deleted every attempt for 1.5 years. The birthday emails, the Merry Christmas guilt trips. But the update in the subject line caught me. It felt final. I opened it. "Stella, I don't expect a reply. I just thought you should know. Your mother and I are separated. The divorce will be final in December. It was the house of cards, Stella. You pulling your card out made the whole thing fall down. Lydia and Marcus are over. He cheated on her. A 22-year-old intern at his firm. He left Lydia and the baby. Sophie, yes, they named her Sophie, I'm sorry, for the girl. Lydia is living with your mother. They are miserable. They fight all day. Your mother blames you for breaking the seal on the family. I'm in an apartment in St. Paul. It's quiet. I went to therapy. The shrink says I was an enabler. I think she's right. I'm sorry I didn't protect you at that dinner. I should have flipped the table. You were right to leave. Dad. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. Marcus cheated. Of course he did. Cheaters don't change. They just change victims. Lydia was a single mom living with Marilyn. That was a fate worse than prison. And Dad was alone. You okay? Caleb asked, setting a mug of coffee on the table. I looked at him. I looked at the rain falling outside the window. Yeah, I said. I think I am. Bad news? No, I said, closing the laptop. Just old news. The trash took itself out. I didn't reply to the email. I didn't need to. His apology was for him, not for me. My peace was the silence. We got married in October. Not in a ballroom, not in a church. On a cliff overlooking the Oregon coast. The wind was whipping my hair around my face. The sky was a dramatic, moody gray that made the ocean look like crushed velvet. There were 12 people there. My boss, Catherine, who wore a trench coat and looked like a spy. A few friends from Seattle. Caleb's parents, who were normal, lovely teachers from Portland. And Caleb. I didn't wear a white dress. I wore a deep emerald green jumpsuit. I didn't walk down an aisle. We walked to the edge of the cliff together. When it came time for the vows, I didn't read from a binder. I held Caleb's hands. His hands were warm. I promise, I said, my voice fighting the wind, not to shrink for you. I promise to be difficult when it matters. I promise to never pretend that I'm okay when I'm not. And I promise to choose you every day, not because I have to, but because I want to. Caleb smiled. I promise to always check my pockets before laundry, he joked, but then his eyes went serious. And I promise to protect the space we build, no intruders. The officiant pronounced us married. We kissed, and I felt grounded. I wasn't the girl who color-coded her binder to control the chaos. I was the woman who had walked through the fire and built a castle out of the ashes. 3 months later. That's the story. I'm writing this from our honeymoon in New Zealand. We skipped Japan. I haven't spoken to a Baroni in 2 years. From what I hear through the grapevine, my old college roommate ran into Nolan. It's a Greek tragedy back in Minneapolis. Marilyn posts passive-aggressive quotes about ungrateful children on Facebook every day. Lydia is trying to become a mommy influencer, but mostly just posts crying selfies. Marcus was fired from his firm for inappropriate conduct with the intern. Me? I just got promoted to partner at the agency. My name is Stella Crawford Montgomery, and every Sunday, Caleb and I have a tradition. We order takeout, we sit on the floor, and we enjoy our happiness. Quietly, without an audience, because the best revenge isn't screaming. It's living a life so good that you forget they even exist. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you are here.